We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including lots of trade and free agent speculation here for the offseason. On the trade front, we're looking at the Montreal Canadiens and the Boston Bruins. On the free agent front, we're looking at a couple of unsigned players that are currently linked to the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll discuss how that may pan out and what moves might need to happen for that even to be an option. Plus, we're looking at the future of Kyle Connor with Winnipeg, a pending unrestricted free agent. If he does make it to market, where could he possibly end up? We'll discuss the latest comments from Frank Seravalli on that front, plus an update on Matthew Tkschuk. Another update as well on the Sens' new arena deal that was announced yesterday. And we also have a big story as well in Philadelphia. We finally have an arbitration ruling on the case between the Philadelphia Flyers and Ryan Johansen. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss in today's video, a variety of news and rumors to take a look at. We're going to start the video off with another NHL veteran announcing his retirement. This seems to be a trend here as of late, but veteran defenseman Chad Ruwedel, mostly known I think for his time with the Pittsburgh Penguins, has announced his retirement. This was confirmed through the NHLPA social media sites. So he appeared in 369 games. Of course, like I said, mostly with Pittsburgh, won the Stanley Cup there. So certainly that's probably, definitely, I think, fair to say the highlight of his career. Also made some appearances and played with Buffalo and the New York Rangers. But Ruwedel, I think, will be known as a Stanley Cup champion with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So certainly like to wish him the best on whatever comes next for Ruwedel now that his time in the NHL has come to a close. As I mentioned as well, we had a big story yesterday with the Ottawa Senators making an announcement that they have a sale agreement now in place with the NCC to buy the land in LeBreton Flats to start getting underway with their new arena project. Of course, we've known this has been something they've been working on for some time. And yesterday, one thing that we learned was that the sale price was north of $30 million, and it was around 11 acres was the parcel that they were getting. We actually learned today that that price is actually even higher. Turns out that it's north of $35 million. So obviously it doesn't make too much of a difference. Either way, the Sens are making a huge step forward to get in their downtown arena. But as we mentioned yesterday, they have a long ways to go. Obviously, lots of more steps. The land needs a lot of cleaning up to do. They got to go through some zoning changes. Of course, have to go through a design phase. So it's going to be a little while before they can get shovels in the ground. But the Ottawa Senators are also expected to make some sort of significant announcement tomorrow, and this is going to be in relation to their AHL team, the Belleville Senators. We don't know exactly the full details, but the belief is that they're going to be announcing some sort of an extension to keep the team in Belleville for an extended period of time. I believe their lease with the arena in Belleville was coming close to coming due, and there was a lot of talk with Michael Landlauer's prior history in Hamilton that maybe they would move the farm team back there for that, maybe to relocate, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they've been pleased with how things have gone in Belleville, and all the news reporters that kind of have the inside scoop on the announcement that's coming tomorrow said it's something that's good for the existing club. So I suspect it's probably going to be some sort of new long-term lease to keep the Ottawa Senators AHL affiliate in Belleville for an extended time. So we'll find out tomorrow what exactly the announcement is. Now, as I mentioned, a situation that's been ongoing for an extended time has finally been ruled upon, and that's an arbitrator has finally ruled on the case between the Philadelphia Flyers and Ryan Johansen. Now, of course, we know Johansen ended up getting traded to Philadelphia, and he refused to report, citing that he was injured, even though prior to being traded, he had been playing. Now, I don't doubt that he probably had some things that are, needing to be done. I believe he even had a surgery, and I'm not saying that, it was something that was false or anything, but it looked kind of sketchy. And we already knew that there was, I think, not a great relationship with John Tortorella, who's not even there now, of course. But either way, the Flyers have won their case. The arbitrator has ruled in favor of Philadelphia. They will not have to pay Ryan Johansen a single penny. Of course, they went through the contract termination process, citing material breach of contract as their grounds for doing so, and the arbitrator has upheld that. So Ryan Johansen will not be getting any money from Philadelphia. If he would have, there may have been a possibility of a cap penalty or something for Philly, but that will not be something that we see. Now, as I mentioned as well, a few other updates. A couple from Frank Saravalli, who made some video posts today through Bleacher Report appearances. One talking about Matthew Tkschuk. We've heard directly from Matthew himself here in recent days through an interview with ESPN and Greg Wyshynski, indicating that he's been uncertain over if he'll be having off-season surgery or not. We did hear about the extent of his injuries that he suffered at Four Nations, and it sounded pretty gruesome. I don't see really how he can not have it. Saravalli said today his opinion was that Matthew likely misses 3 to 5 months. So I think the timing of it, if he has surgery maybe later this month or close to the beginning of the NHL season, he'd probably be in a scenario where he could come back either in January or maybe late January, early February, shortly before the Olympics. I don't think Tkschuk is going to put himself in danger of missing the Olympics. I know it's something that's very important to him, and we will see. You would think he would want to aim to get back and play at least a few games before the Olympics to make sure that everything feels good and that he's going to, timing back and all kinds of stuff like that, but we'll have to see. But Saravalli's opinion on the matter is that he will miss significant time to start the year, possibly as much as 4 to 5 months. As I mentioned as well, we also had an update from Saravalli on Kyle Connor. Now, of course, we know he's a major player for the Winnipeg Jets and a huge part of their team's success. He's also a pending unrestricted free agent, and there's no doubt there's teams around the league kind of eyeballing that situation, keeping a close eye, wondering, is there any chance he'll make it to free agency next summer? Because if he does, he'll be a highly sought-after commodity. Connor is one of the game's best goal scorers and has been very consistent in his play. Plays top-line minutes, really good in the power play, and has just been a really, really good all-around player. Now, like I said, he has been so good for Winnipeg that a loss of him would be just a major blow to that team. As good as Winnipeg has been, they can't afford to lose Kyle Connor. Now, of course, Saravalli in his update today was talking about the fact that he doesn't think Jets fans have anything to panic about or really be too worried about at this point in time, given the fact that an extension has not been announced here just yet. But he says the Jets have done pretty good at keeping a lot of their players, and thinks that right now it's still favorable that could come together. But on the odd chance that he does get through this season and not have a contract in place, that if he makes it to free agency, could he land back in his home state of Michigan and join the Detroit Red Wings? I mean, Saravalli made some good points that, they need the scoring. Adding the scoring punch that he provides would be massive for the Red Wings. He's from Michigan. We know a lot of the Michigan guys end up liking to go back there. He could be a great piece to play with guys like Larkin and, of course, Alex DeBrincat. So, would Steve Yzerman go out there and pay big bucks to bring in Kyle Connor? I would suspect he would. But, looking at their lineup, they obviously have some things they'd like to do this year and some players they'd like to move on from. And obviously they're hoping to end their playoff drought, which is going to be super tough to do in my opinion. But yeah, the Red Wings definitely do make sense for Connor for his future. I would hope that Steve Yzerman would be monitoring that situation. But for right now, the belief and expectation is that there's still a pretty good chance he re-signs in Winnipeg. But again, like a lot of these players, until it's done, it's not done. And there's a chance that they could be available at a later date. So like many of us, we'll keep an eye on that situation. Now, we'll look at a couple of other rumors around the league, some involving trade, some involving free agency. We'll start with the free agent stuff, which are mainly linked to the Toronto Maple Leafs here. A couple of players that we know are out there, one being Jack Roslovic and one being Matt Grzelcyk, and both do have some ties to the Leafs here. Now, there was some more chatter from Saravalli, again, another reporter of his today, talking about Jack Roslovic, and sounds like he's getting closer to making a decision, and there's still many wondering if Toronto is going to be the best fit and where he ultimately ends up. Obviously, their cap situation makes it very challenging right now. We know that the Leafs are trying to move David Kampf, Kelly Yarncroke, and maybe to a lesser degree Nick Robertson. So there's definitely a few players there to free up some money that they would like to do and have not yet been able to. So I wonder how much impact that could have, of course, because like I said, you can't sign players if you don't have the space. You can go over by 10% in the offseason, but obviously that plays a role in in what you're doing as well, and trying to get under the cap before the season. Teams are going to know what you're up to, and you don't want to be really trading from a position of weakness, right, if you can help it. So ultimately we'll see what happens there, but Roslovic and Matt Grzelcyk are both players we're keeping an eye on. Roslovic can play center, he can play wing, so we'll see what they do. Grzelcyk, on the other hand, a player that there is interest, because as much as the Leafs decor, I think, had a pretty good season and are pretty strong overall, they did struggle a bit to generate offense from the back end, and would like to maybe consider changing up the mix there, adding in another good puck-moving defenseman. Well, Grzelcyk fits that description. He had 40 points last year in a weak Penguin team, put up career highs. Of course, the former Bruins defenseman would be quite familiar, and likewise with the Leafs, given all their battles while his time in the Bruins organization was taking place. So clearly, Grzelcyk and Roslovic could be good fits for Toronto, but some cap-freeing money needs to be found here. And like I said, guys like Kampf and Yarncroke and to some degree Robertson are the main players we keep hearing about, but yet nothing has materialized just yet. But according to Sarah Valley, something is getting closer on Roslovic. If it turns out to be Toronto, then I wonder how that is all going to play out. Maybe there's a trade coming here sooner than later. Now, when it comes to the trade front, we'll start with a couple things. One, we want to look at Boston and Montreal. When it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, I know Marco D'Amico, one of the beat reporters for the Habs, who usually has some good information, had been away on vacation, came back, and did some checking around and get the latest for us on the Canadian situation. The belief is right now that the Carey Price contract will be traded somewhere around September the 1st or maybe shortly thereafter, where he does have a bonus that's being paid out. And really, for a lot of teams, this is going to be an attractive move, especially teams that are looking to either get to the cap floor or be slightly bit above it. The Price contract is quite favorable at this point. He has the bonus he's going to have paid September 1 is $5.5 million, which means that they would only owe him $2 million over the remainder of the contract, but it's a cap hit of over 10. So it really elevates their cap hit, but it doesn't involve a ton of cash. And out of that couple of million that's left in salary, 60% of it would be covered through insurance, where he's unable to play and fulfill those duties right now. So with all that being said, the belief is that teams like Pittsburgh and San Jose will be the main teams to look at for landing the Price contract. Hard to say exactly what the return is. I don't think it's going to be anything too significant. Obviously, they're doing Montreal a bit of a favor. So the article from D'Amico today basically outlines the fact that the Price contract being traded will unlock some other opportunities. He does believe that the Montreal Canadiens do have at least one more significant move up their sleeve that they'd like to try and complete. But moving the Price contract first will give them the flexibility they're looking for to ultimately make that happen. He also learned from some talking to his sources today that some prospects or players that they absolutely do not want to include in any kind of trade, and that would be players like David Reinbacher, who we talked about yesterday, maybe being an attractive option for Mason McTavish, or Michael Hage. So it's believed that those two players, Reinbacher and Hage, are pretty much off limits, that the Habs do not want to include them. But if they're going to make additional moves after the Price contract, the belief is that they do prefer a picks and prospect type of kind of package here. They're not looking to weaken their team or to make a move to fix a problem, but then create another problem in the process. So we know that the number 2 center spot is their prime target. We've talked about different players that they could have their sights on. And once the Price contract is moved, hopefully here in a few weeks, that should be a more likely scenario. So again, Reinbacher, Hage, off limits. Price contract trade to one of the low teams on the cap situation here like San Jose, Pittsburgh around September the 1st, and then a subsequent move likely to happen after that, but we don't know exactly who the target is, except that it's going to be somebody that they're looking at as a number 2 center role. Now, as I mentioned as well, Boston Bruins goalie Joonas Korpisalo continues to get a lot of chatter around through the NHL rumor mill. We talked about the Bruins the other day and the fact that their latest report and article on them that we looked at from RG.org was indicating there's 3 players that continue to get a lot of chatter in the rumor mill about being available. One of those guys being Joonas Korpisalo. I did see another article today suggesting a couple of teams that would make sense for Korpisalo, and that included Carolina and Seattle, but both of those deals would be contingent on them probably making another subsequent move. I look around and I wonder about a team like Minnesota. Now, Minnesota right now has Gustafsson and Jesper Wallstedt. They already given Wallstedt an extension, which, certainly that extension reflects the fact that they expect him to be on the NHL roster and be the backup or a 1B situation. I'm not really 100% sold yet that he's ready and capable for that kind of role, and that they may change their mind and want to bring another veteran in to work with Philip Gustafsson for more of a 1A, 1B type of concept for their goaltending. So to me, that would make more sense, but I don't know. Like in Carolina, as long as Freddie Anderson's healthy, I don't think Korpisalo makes sense there. And in Seattle, I think he could make sense to work with Joey Daccord, but they'd have to move off Philip Grubauer, which I thought they would, but they have not done so. So because of that, unless they do, I just don't see it happening. Whereas in Minnesota, Wallstedt's still a player that can go to the minors if need be. They could get a little bit of cap relief on his end because they signed him for a $2 million contract for the next couple of years. But is he ready for that? I mean, to me, his play has not been indicative that he is. So will Minnesota want to go out and get another veteran backup to work with Gustafsson? To me, it would make sense. Korpisalo is not the only option out there, though, so they could go in a different direction. But for me, I wonder if the Bruins do finally pull the trigger on a trade, because we knew, based on the comments, he wasn't real thrilled with how last season went. And I don't think he's looking or asking for a trade, but I don't think he'd be upset if one presented itself or he had more of an opportunity to play either. So we'll see kind of what happens on that front. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.